Hello, everyone, and welcome to ZAM Audiobook.
Yeah, welcome in, everyone. I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning, looking at the ceiling, and realizing that your financial anxiety is completely gone.
Oh, that's the dream, right?
It really is. Like, no stress about bills, no panic about how you're going to handle some sudden car repair, and definitely no more of that, that late night panic calculating where you're trying to figure out how many years you have left until retirement.
I think we've all been there at 2 a.m. with the calculator app open.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to show you the exact masterclass to make that happen.
And let's be clear up front, wealth isn't magic. It's really just plumbing.
Plumbing.
Yeah, plumbing. Today is about looking under the sink, fixing your pipes, and building these bulletproof financial systems that practically guarantee your independence, and they do it operating entirely in the background of your life.
I love that analogy. It's about bypassing that really fragile thing we call willpower. We're going to hack the psychology of money. We'll break down how to fundamentally redefine your income, invest without that paralyzing fear, and ultimately, and this is the big one, decouple your time from your paycheck.
So grab a coffee, get comfortable, or if you're commuting, just settle in, because we're going to fundamentally rewire how you view every single dollar. Chapter 1. The magic of automation and everyday expenses.
This chapter explores how small, daily expenses silently drain potential wealth.
Okay.
It introduces the foundational principle of automating your finances to completely remove willpower from the wealth-building equation.
So let's start by looking at something so ordinary that most of us don't even notice it.
Right.
It's this concept of the daily routine expense. Think about your morning coffee run. Maybe it's a $5 latte.
Yeah, or maybe it's that streaming subscription you haven't watched in like 3 months.
Exactly. Or the lunch you buy at work because you were just too rushed to pack one. These seem like tiny, almost insignificant drops in the bucket. Right? But we really have to look at the math here because human brains are just terrible at understanding compounding numbers.
We really are. We just don't get it intuitively. I mean, if you take that $5 coffee and multiply it by every day of the year, you're looking at roughly $1,800 a year.
Which is a decent chunk of change.
It is. But the tragedy isn't just the $1,800. The real tragedy is the compounding interest that money actually could have earned if you invested it.
Right.
If you put that $1,800 a year into just a basic investment account, earning an average 8% return over, say, 30 years.
Yeah, let's look at that timeline.
You aren't just missing out on $54,000 in coffee money. You are missing out on over $200,000 of wealth.
Wait, 200,000?
Over 200,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars, just vanishing into thin air over, pastry and a latte.
Okay, but Sonia, I have to push back here a little bit.
Sure, we could.
Because that sounds great on a spreadsheet, right? But let's look at the reality people are actually facing right now. I mean, rent is up like 30% nationwide.
Oh, easily.
Groceries are just exorbitant. So telling someone who is grinding through a 40-hour work week that the secret to getting rich is denying themselves a $5 coffee, it feels a bit disconnected, doesn't it? Shouldn't we enjoy our lives? Are we really saying the path to wealth is just brutal deprivation?
I am so glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Seriously, because that is the exact friction everyone feels, and it is vital we clear it up. The answer is no.
Okay, good.
It is absolutely not about deprivation.
Yeah.
It's never about making yourself miserable today just so you can be rich when you're 80 years old and too tired to even enjoy it. The core issue here is not the coffee itself.
Then what is it?
The core issue is unconscious consumption.
Unconscious consumption.
Yes. It is about the money that leaks out of your life without bringing you any actual proportional joy. If that $5 coffee is the absolute highlight of your morning and it brings you immense happiness.
Buy the coffee.
Buy the coffee, exactly.
Yeah.
But you have to cut ruthlessly somewhere else. The secret is identifying where your money is flowing automatically toward things you genuinely do not care about.
Like the unused memberships.
Right. Or buying a brand new car when a used one works perfectly fine. You find those leaks and you redirect that flow toward your own future. And this brings us to what is arguably the most crucial principle of wealth building, paying yourself first.
Paying yourself first. We hear that phrase all the time, but I feel like most people do the exact opposite.
Oh, almost everyone does.
We pay the landlord, we pay the credit card company, the grocery store, the utility company. And then, if there's a tiny sliver of money left on the 30th of the month, we think, okay, well, maybe I'll move this to savings.
But surprise, there's usually nothing left.
Never anything left.
Because human willpower is incredibly finite. We wake up with a limited supply of decision-making energy every single day. And think about what you're up against out there.
It's a lot.
You are fighting billion-dollar marketing algorithms engineered by literally the smartest minds on the planet. Your phone, your TV, the billboards you drive past, they are all designed with one singular goal, which is to get you to tap your credit card.
Yeah, they're very good at it.
You cannot win a fistfight with those algorithms every single day. Eventually, your willpower breaks. So the only permanent solution is absolute automation. You have to remove yourself and your willpower from the equation entirely.
Okay, so let's say I've successfully tricked myself into deciding to hide 10 or 15% of my paycheck. But if that money is just, sitting in my checking account under a different name, I know myself I'm going to spend it the second I want a new television.
Of course you will.
So how do we actually build a wall around it? What does the plumbing look like?
It means setting up an automatic routing system. So 10 to 15% of your gross income, which, if you do the math, roughly translates to about 1 hour of your pay each day, is instantly redirected into a separate savings or investment account.
Okay.
And here's the absolute key to this. This has to happen before that money ever hits your main checking account, because if you never see it, you cannot spend it.
I love the analogy of a tax for this.
Yeah.
Think about your income tax. The government doesn't just wait around hoping you'll be fiscally responsible and have some money left over at the end of the year to send them a check.
Right. They know human nature better than that.
Exactly. So they take their cut right off the top before the money ever reaches your hands. And what do?
You adapt?
You just adapt. You figure out how to live on the net amount that actually lands in your account. You don't even really miss the money that was taxed because it never felt like yours to begin with. So what we're saying is you need to tax yourself for your own future. You need a me tax.
A me tax. That is a brilliant way to look at it.
Oh.
You are taxing your present self to fund your future self's freedom. And the beautiful thing is it works flawlessly, regardless of your income bracket. Let's look at a real-world example to ground this.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Think about a couple. Let's call them Jim and Sue. Jim works as a shift manager at a retail store, and Sue is a beautician. Their combined joint income never exceeds $55,000 a year.
Okay, so very standard middle class.
Thoroughly middle-class, blue-collar workers. But they managed to retire in their early 50s, completely debt-free, with over $1 million in liquid savings.
Wait, $1 million liquid on $55,000 a year? That is a staggering number. Most people assume you need like a Wall Street salary or some massive inheritance to hit 7 figures.
Right.
So break down the actual mechanics of how they did that, because again, they weren't living on rice and beans in a dark room.
Right. No, they didn't live in a dark room. They just set up the plumbing flawlessly. From the very first day they started working, they went to their HR departments and they set up automatic split direct deposits.
Okay.
They routed 15% of every single paycheck straight into their investment accounts. It never even touched their joint checking. They also bought a modest, affordable home, and they set up automated biweekly mortgage payments, which quietly shaved years off their loan without them ever having to think about it.
So they didn't have to sit down at the kitchen table every Sunday night agonizing over some strict, restrictive spreadsheet budget.
Exactly. Budgets rely on willpower.
Huh.
And we already established willpower fails.
Uh-huh.
They just made sure the wealth building happened invisibly in the background.
Wow.
Meanwhile, their neighbors with much higher salaries, maybe making $150,000 a year, they were out driving leased luxury cars, upgrading their phones every year, and carrying that massive credit card debt just to sustain an illusion of wealth. Jim and Sue were quietly building an actual empire.
That is wild.
It proves that when it comes to money, your behavior and your automated systems are far, far more important than the raw size of your salary.
That's incredibly empowering, honestly. It really takes the pressure off. You don't have to be a math genius. You just have to set up the plumbing correctly once.
Exactly once.
Okay, so we've established the me tax. We are diverting that 10 to 15%. But if that money is just flowing out of checking, where exactly does it pool first? I mean, we need to build a reservoir before we start trying to build a skyscraper. Chapter 2, the 10% rule and the power of emergency buffers.
Building on the concept of automation, this chapter details the necessity of establishing a robust emergency fund. It highlights the dangers of relying on credit cards during vulnerable times and the power of living within your means.
So the plumbing is set up. We are adhering to the golden rule, which is saving 10% of your paycheck as the absolute, or 15 if you can manage it. But before we even utter the words stock market or real estate, That very first stream of automated money needs to pool into a very specific place. It needs to build your sleep well at night.
The emergency fund. We hear financial experts throw that term around constantly, but man, the reality on the ground is terrifying.
It really is.
Roughly 26% of adults have literally zero emergency savings, nothing. And another massive percentage couldn't even cover a $1,000 emergency out of cash.
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
This means for a huge portion of the population, one unexpected flat tire or one sudden medical copay or a broken water heater, and their entire financial world just gets turned upside down.
It is a highly precarious way to live. When you have zero buffer, you are literally living on a tightrope without a net. So let's look deeply at the mechanics of a proper emergency fund.
Okay.
It is not just keeping $300 extra in your checking account. A true safety net needs to cover 3 to 6 months of your actual living expenses. And honestly, depending on your industry, like say you're a freelancer with variable income, aiming for up to a year of expenses isn't a bad idea.
And where does this sit? Because if I put it in the stock market and the market crashes exactly when I lose my job, I'm ruined.
Exactly. You do not invest this money. This money needs to sit in a high-yield savings account, or a HYSA. It needs to be liquid, meaning you can access it within a day or two without penalties.
Got it.
But why a high-yield account instead of just a regular old bank account? Because of inflation. If your money is sitting in a traditional checking account earning 0.01% interest, it is slowly losing its purchasing power every single day.
Right, the silent tax.
A high-yield account, which you can easily find online, pays you a decent interest rate just for keeping your cash there, helping it at least keep pace with inflation. It's safe, it's liquid, and it's separate from your spending money.
And the reason this buffer is so critical is because emergencies don't just cost money. They force you into terrible financial decisions if you aren't prepared.
Oh, completely.
Yeah. Let's trace the snowball effect here. You have no cash. Your car's transmission blows. You need the car to get to work. So what do? You pull out a credit card with a 22% interest rate.
The worst kind of debt.
Right. You swipe it for $1,000. Because you're already living paycheck to paycheck, you can only afford the minimum payment. Over the next 3 years, with compound interest working against you, that $1,000 repair turns into a $1,500 or $2,000 debt.
Yeah.
It traps you in this toxic cycle where you are essentially paying for the past instead of building the future.
The emergency fund acts as a shock absorber for your life. It turns a massive crisis into just a minor inconvenience. But beyond just having the fund, we also need to address the psychology of how we spend on a daily basis. We have to fundamentally redefine what affordability even means.
Yes. We need to bring back a phrase that seems to have completely vanished from the modern vocabulary. I can't afford it.
I love that phrase.
Saying those words has somehow become a source of shame. We view it as a personal failure. Why has borrowing money to maintain an illusion become our national pastime? I mean, if we want a new couch, we finance it for 60 months. If we want a vacation, we put it on a credit card. We have completely normalized living perpetually in the red.
It's a profound cultural shift. 50 years ago, if you wanted something, you saved for it.
Yeah.
Today, you see something you want, and the immediate thought is no longer, do I have the cash in my bank account for this? But rather, can I squeeze the monthly payment into my cash flow?
What's the monthly on that?
Exactly. And that is a very dangerous mindset. Let's compare two different habits to illustrate this. Let's say you own a home and you want to renovate your kitchen. It's going to cost $30,000.
Okay, so the bad habit is what most people do. They go straight to the bank.
Right. The bad habit is treating a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, as a giant, limitless credit card. You just borrow $30,000 against the equity in your house to upgrade the cabinets.
And then you're stuck.
What have you done? You've increased your overall debt load, you've committed your future income to monthly payments with interest, and most dangerously, you have put your primary shelter at risk if the housing market dips or you lose your job.
Wow. And the good habit?
The good habit is utilizing a forced discipline approach. You look at the $30,000 cost of the renovation. You figure out how much you can automatically divert into a specific savings account each month, say $500, and then you wait.
You wait.
You wait 60 months until you can pay for the kitchen in cash. It requires immense patience, yes, but it guarantees you never consume more than you produce. It keeps your net worth moving forward instead of backward.
It really comes down to organizing your priorities and being brutally honest with yourself. But, knowing you should save 10%, and knowing you should wait to buy a kitchen in cash is very different from actually organizing it in your daily life.
Oh, definitely.
When you have rent, groceries, student loans, and gas all hitting your account at different times, it feels like a chaotic swarm of bees. We really need a way to organize this flow. Chapter 3. Structuring your cash flow and overcoming invisible scripts.
This chapter introduces a visual bucket-based method for organizing cash flow and challenges the deeply ingrained psychological beliefs that hold people back from building wealth.
So before we give you the mechanical buckets to organize the cash flow, we really have to talk about the psychological barriers that stop the money from flowing at all.
Right, the mindsets. There is a great analogy about two young fish swimming along. They happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" The two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?"
Hello.
It's profound because it perfectly illustrates what we call invisible scripts. These are deeply ingrained, often passed down beliefs about money that dictate our entire lives, but they are so ubiquitous, so normal to us that we don't even realize they are there. They are the water we swim in.
So I want to ask you, listening right now, what invisible script is silently dictating your financial choices today?
That's a tough question to answer.
It is. Is it the script that says, I don't earn enough to save right now, I'll start when I get a raise? Or maybe it's the script that says, investing is essentially gambling. It's a rigged game only for rich people who have inside information.
I hear that one all the time.
Or perhaps the most damaging one. My parents were always broke and stressed about money, so I guess I'm just genetically bad with money too.
Those scripts are incredibly destructive because they offer a really comfortable excuse for inaction. They let us off the hook. I mean, if the game is rigged, why bother trying to play?
But they are factually wrong. Because, as we saw with Jim and Sue, financial success is not about being a math genius. It is not about having a six-figure salary straight out of college. It is about consistency. Behavior is vastly more important than brains.
Yeah.
You don't need to understand complex derivatives or algorithmic trading to get wealthy. You just need a system, and you need the discipline to let it run.
So let's give you that system. Let's break the invisible scripts with concrete mechanics. This is a visual framework, so simple you could sketch it out on a napkin right now. It is the 3-bucket strategy for organizing your cash flow. Imagine 3 physical buckets into which your income flows the moment you get paid.
All right, bucket number 1 is your blow bucket. This is your daily living bucket. It covers your rent or mortgage, your groceries, your utilities, your gas, and yes, your fun money.
Lattes.
The daily coffees, your dinners out, your streaming subscriptions, all of that lives here.
Yeah.
The goal is to fund this bucket with roughly 60% of your gross income.
Let me stop you there because I can hear people yelling at their Sonia, my rent alone takes up 50% of my income. My blow bucket is currently at like 85%. I can't just magically shrink it to...
And that is exactly why this system works.
Yeah.
It forces the hard, honest conversations.
Yeah.
If your blow bucket requires 85% of your income just to survive,
Yeah.
you are in a financial state of emergency. You really have 2 levers to pull. You either have to radically increase your income, or you have to radically scale down your lifestyle.
There's no magic third option.
No, that might mean moving to a smaller apartment, getting a roommate, or selling a finance car and buying a beater. It's painful, but ignoring the math won't save you.
Okay, so assuming we optimize and get that daily living cost down to 60%,
So,
the overflow goes into bucket number 2, the mojo bucket.
exactly. The mojo bucket is the safety net we just talked about, your emergency fund, the shock absorber. It sits in that high-yield savings account, completely separate from your blow bucket.
Right, out of sight.
You don't carry a debit card for this bucket in your wallet, so you aren't tempted to dip into it for a weekend trip to Vegas.
And finally, bucket number 3 is the grow bucket. This is the holy grail. This is your long-term wealth builder. This is the automated investments, your retirement accounts, the money that is going to literally buy your future freedom. You never touch the grow bucket. It just quietly compounds in the background for decades.
To make sure those 3 buckets are filled efficiently, we can layer in a 4-step action plan. Think of it as the 4x4 plan. Step 1, optimize what you have. That means printing out your last 3 months of bank statements, tracking your actual expenses line by line, finding the leaks.
The forgotten subscriptions.
Yeah, the subscriptions you forgot about, the excessive takeout, and redirecting that money.
Step 2, eliminate bad debt. Aggressively target those high-interest credit cards, which we will dive into deeply in a few minutes. Step 3, establish your safety nets, which is filling that mojo bucket with 3 to 6 months of expenses. And step 4, Invest for the long term. Fill the grow bucket.
It is a brilliant, clear roadmap.
It is. But I know for a fact that the moment we mention step 4, investing for the long term, a lot of people freeze up. Because once that grow bucket is active and accumulating cash, it's time to actually put that money to work in the financial markets.
And that's scary for people.
It really is. For beginners or even intermediate investors who've been burned before, the stock market doesn't feel like a wealth-building machine. It feels like a terrifying, chaotic casino where you put your shirt over. Chapter 4, Market Realities and the All-Weather.
Demystifying the stock market, this chapter explains fundamental market rules, the devastating impact of fees, and how to construct a resilient portfolio. It emphasizes low-cost index funds over actively managed options.
It is completely natural to be freaked out by the stock market. I mean, the entire financial news cycle survives by selling panic. The Dow plunges, gets way more clicks than the market grew steadily.
Oh, definitely. Fear sells.
But let's strip away the emotion and look at the actual math and historical facts to calm. Let's establish some fundamental market reality. First, a market correction, which is defined as a 10% drop from a recent market high, happens about once a year on average. It is a completely routine, healthy part of the economic.
It's like winter. You know it's going to get cold every single year. You don't panic, scream that the world is ending, and burn your house down for warmth. You just put on a coat and wait for spring.
Precisely. Now, a bear market, which is a 20% drop or more, happens roughly every 3 to 5 years. Those are definitely scarier. They dominate. But here is the single most important fact you will ever learn about.
Listen to this.
Every single bear market in history has been followed by a bull market. The market, over the long term, always recovers and hits new all-time highs, assuming the broader economy continues to. The biggest danger to your wealth is not a temporary market crash.
What is it?
The biggest danger is being entirely out of the market, out of fear, and missing the explosive recovery days that follow a crash.
Okay, so we agree we need to be in a market.
Yeah.
We have our grow bucket cash ready to go. But what do we actually buy? If you open a brokerage account, there is a dizzying array of options. Let's break down the 3 main types of funds in plain English so we know what we're looking at.
Okay.
First, you have hedge funds. These are essentially exclusive clubs for very high net worth investors. They require massive minimum investments, they take huge complicated risks to try and generate massive returns, and they charge exorbitant fees to do so. They are irrelevant for 99% of people.
Then you have mutual funds. This is where most everyday people have their retirement money parked, often without realizing it. A mutual fund is actively managed.
Right.
This means there's a team of highly paid financial analysts in a fancy office in Manhattan, constantly buying and selling stocks, trying to guess which companies will do well this quarter, and trying to beat the overall market average.
And finally, you have index funds. Wait, so an index fund is essentially the ultimate lazy investment, right? It requires no active manager.
Exactly.
It is basically a dumb computer program that simply buys a microslice of every single major company in a specific market, like the top 500 companies in the U.S. economy. It doesn't try to guess if tech will beat healthcare this week. It just buys everything and bets that American capitalism will keep going up over a 30-year timeline.
That's exactly what. And here is why the index fund is the ultimate, undisputed wealth-building tool for the everyday investor. It eliminates the hidden killer of wealth, which is fees.
Fees?
Actively managed mutual funds charge you for their expertise. It is very common to see a 2% annual management fee.
Now, to a normal person, 2% doesn't sound like a lot. I mean, if I have $100 invested, they take $2, I still have 98. Who cares?
You care when you calculate that over a lifetime of compounding interest.
Yeah.
Because that 2% fee is taken out every single year, regardless of whether the fund makes money or loses money. And it's not just taken on your initial investment, it's taken on all the growth that money has. Let's run the math. Say you invest $100,000 and the market returns 8% a year over 30 years. If you are in an index fund paying almost 0 fees, that money grows to about $1 million.
Okay, $1 million.
If you are in a mutual fund charging 2%, your net return is now 6%. Over 30 years, your $100,000 only grows to about $570,000.
Wait, really?
Yes, that tiny 2% fee literally consumed over $400,000 of your potential compounding. You took all the risk, you provided all the capital, and the fund manager walked away with almost half your wealth.
But I have to push back here because Logic dictates that you get what you pay for in life.
Ah.
If I hire a professional plumber, I get better pipes than if I try to do it myself with duct tape. If I hire a top-tier lawyer, I get a better defense.
Sure.
Shouldn't we gladly pay these professional Wall Street fund managers that 2% fee if their expertise and their fancy algorithms mean they can pick the best stocks and dramatically beat the market average?
That is the logical assumption, and it is the exact narrative the financial industry sells you. But the historical data proves it is a complete myth.
A myth.
Active stock trading is essentially a zero-sum game. For every winner who buys a stock low, there must be a loser who sold it low. And when you factor in those high 2% fees, plus the taxes generated by the fund constantly buying and selling stocks, 96% of actively managed mutual funds fail to beat the simple, dumb benchmark index fund over a 15-year period. 96.
So by paying for these experts, you're almost mathematically guaranteed to lose money compared to just accepting the market average.
Yes. By simply investing in a low-cost index fund, which has fees of maybe 0.04%, you are accepting average market returns. But because you aren't bleeding out through that average, mathematically guarantees that you will outperform the vast majority of all other investors over a lifetime.
It's incredible. It is the one area of life where being lazy and average actually makes you a genius. But, even with index funds, the market will still fluctuate. And for some people, watching their grow bucket drop by 20% during a recession is just too much emotional stress.
It really is.
They won't care about 30-year timelines. They will panic, sell at the bottom, and lock in their losses.
Which brings us to portfolio construction. How do we build a portfolio that can weather any economic storm so you don't panic sell? The traditional advice pushed by advisors has always been a 60-40 portfolio. 60% in stocks for growth, 40% in bonds for safety.
Right, the idea being that stocks and bonds are inversely correlated. When stocks go down in a panic, bonds generally stay stable or go up, cushioning the fall.
But there's a massive mathematical flaw in the 60 model. It balances your capital, the dollar amount, but it does not balance your risk. Stocks are historically about 3 times more volatile than bonds. So if you put 60% of your money in stocks, stocks are actually driving about 90% of the risk.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
When the stock market crashes, like it did in 2008, that 40% in bonds isn't nearly powerful enough to stop your portfolio from a massive, terrifying.
So what is the alternative? How do we build something sturdier?
We have to look at the all-weather approach. This is a strategy designed by some of the most successful institutional investors in the world. Instead of balancing capital, it balances risk across 4 distinct economic seasons or environments. An economy can only really do 4 things. It can have rising growth, falling growth or recession, rising inflation, and falling inflation or deflation.
Because we can never predict which season is coming next. Economists try, but they are consistently wrong.
Exactly. So the all-weather portfolio holds a specific mix of asset classes designed so that when one asset class is getting crushed in a particular season, another is thriving, keeping the overall portfolio highly. It typically looks something like allocating 30% to equities, like our index fund, for periods of economic growth. But then a heavy allocation, perhaps 55%, is put into a mix of intermediate and long-term treasuries.
Why long-term treasuries? What do they do?
Long-term treasuries are the ultimate safe haven. During a massive deflationary crash like 2008, when money dries up and growth plummets, when interest rates drop, the value of existing long-term bonds skyrockets. They act as a massive parachute right when your stocks are falling.
Okay, but what about inflation? Bonds get destroyed by inflation because the fixed money they pay out becomes worthless.
Which is why the portfolio also allocates, crucially, roughly 7.5% to gold and another 7.5% to broad commodities like oil, agriculture, and metals.
Right, because gold and commodities are tangible assets. When the government prints money and causes inflation, the price of a barrel of oil or an ounce of gold goes up natively. They were massive shock absorbers during inflationary seasons, exactly like we saw in the 1970s or the early 2020s.
It is a highly defensive, perfectly balanced posture. You might sacrifice a tiny bit of peak return during a raging, irrational bull market, but you dramatically reduce the devastating plunges during a crash. It smooths the ride, which keeps you in the game emotionally. And staying in the game is how you win.
It's a phenomenal architecture. But while investing optimally grows your wealth on the offensive side, debt acts like a heavy anchor dragging you down on the defensive side.
Absolutely.
You simply cannot outinvest a high-interest credit card. Earning 8% in the market means absolutely nothing if you are paying 22% to a bank. So How do we systematically break that chain? Chapter 5. Destroying debt and redefining borrowing.
This chapter tackles psychological and mathematical approaches to eliminating debt. It draws a clear line between good debt used for appreciating assets and bad debt used for consumption.
When we talk about eliminating debt, I think it's really helpful to compare it to dieting. If you want to lose weight, going on a brutal cabbage soup crash diet for 2 weeks, losing 5 pounds of water weight, and then immediately going back to eating fast food every day isn't going to work.
No, it never works.
Debt reduction is the exact same. It requires a permanent lifestyle change, a rewiring of how you consume. It is not just a one-time purge where you throw your annual tax refund at a credit card and then immediately start racking up charges again the next month.
It requires a systematic mathematical approach. If you are sitting there listening to this and you have multiple debts, a car loan, a couple of maxed out credit cards, maybe a personal loan, it can feel paralyzing. Where do you even start? Do you pay the smallest balance, the largest?
A little overwhelming.
This is where the DOLP comes in. It stands for dead on last pay. It is a highly mathematical yet emotionally satisfying way to crush debt.
Let's play this out with a real scenario so people understand the mechanics.
Yeah.
Let's say I have a $5,000 balance on a credit card at 22% interest, and I also have a $10,000 car loan at 4% interest. Human psychology often says, well, the car loan is $10,000, it's the biggest number, it's stressing me out, I should attack that first. Why is that wrong?
Because of the mathematical bleed. You list out all of your debts regardless of the total balance, and you rank them solely by the interest rate you are being charged.
Okay.
In your example, that 22% credit card is an absolute financial emergency. It is bleeding you dry daily. The DOP method says you take whatever extra money you have optimized from your cash flow. Let's say you found an extra $300 a month by cutting your blow bucket, and you attack that 22% credit card with everything you have. Meanwhile, you pay only the absolute minimum required on the 4% car loan.
You ignore the big balance and focus entirely on the high interest rate.
Yes. And once that credit card is gone, it is dead on that last payment you celebrate. But here's the secret sauce. You take the minimum payment you were paying on the credit card, plus that extra $300, and you roll all of it into the payment for the next debt on the list, your car loan.
It turns debt payoff into a game of dominoes. Every time you knock one down, you gain more cash flow momentum to knock down the next larger one. You are mathematically saving the absolute maximum amount of money on interest charges while psychologically rewarding yourself as accounts hit zero.
Exactly. It marries the math with the psychology perfectly.
But I want to pause here and debate the nuance of debt for a second. We throw the word debt around like it is a toxic disease, but the entire modern economy runs on credit. Is all debt inherently evil? We need to draw a very hard line between good debt and bad debt.
It's a crucial distinction because avoiding all debt might actually slow down your wealth building. I define good debt very strictly. It has to meet 3 non-negotiable criteria.
Let's hear them.
First, the borrowed money must be used to purchase an appreciating asset, something that mathematically will grow in value or produce income over time, like a sensible primary residence or a business. Second, the monthly payments on this debt cannot cripple your cash flow. You still must be able to save that 10 to 15% into your grow bucket.
Right.
And third, there must be a clear written plan to have it completely paid off before you enter retirement, so you don't carry that risk into your fixed income year.
I completely agree with that definition. And bad debt, by contrast, is basically everything else. Yeah. It is borrowing money from your future self to fund present-day consumption.
Exactly.
It is financing a depreciating asset, like buying a brand new $50,000 luxury car the second you get a promotion at work. It is putting a week-long vacation in the Bahamas on a credit card and paying for those margaritas over 3 years with interest. It is going into debt to buy status symbols, designer clothes, expensive watches to impress strangers whose opinion shouldn't matter to you anyway.
Absolutely. Debt for consumption is financial suicide. But I want to warn people, even within the realm of good debt, like a mortgage, there is a massive seductive trap waiting for.
Oh, the lifestyle creep trap, the house poor syndrome. This is so common, especially with young professionals. You get a raise or you get married and suddenly have a dual income and you go to the bank. The mortgage broker runs your numbers and says with a big smile, "Congratulations, you are pre-approved for an $800,000 mortgage."
And human nature kicks in.
Right. The invisible script says, well, if the bank's computers say I can afford it, I must be able to afford it. So you go out and buy the absolute maximum house you're approved for.
And in one signature, you destroy your financial freedom. Suddenly you are house poor. Your entire income goes to servicing that massive mortgage, paying the elevated property taxes, heating a massive space, and maintaining the landscaping.
Yeah, the hidden costs.
You have this beautiful, photogenic home, but you can't afford to go out to dinner. And more importantly, you have completely halted your ability to invest and fill that grow bucket. You are a prisoner in a very nice cell. Just because a lender approves you for a massive loan does not mean it is financially wise to take it. You have to be your own credit control board.
Because if you avoid that trap, if you buy the modest house and keep your housing costs low, you maintain the cash flow needed for real-world consistency in your investing. And consistency letting the system run is where the magic actually happens.
Let me highlight exactly what that consistency looks like in the real world. Imagine an investor who commits to putting 10% of their income into that simple, broad market index fund every single month automatically for 7 years.
Okay.
Over those 7 years, the market will not be a straight line up. There will be periods where the market dips. There will be years where certain sectors, like international stocks, completely under. There will be scary news headlines about trade wars or inflation.
Most people would look at those down years, look at their account balance dropping, and panic, right? They would log in, hit sell, and pull their money out to protect it.
But our automated investor doesn't even flinch because they aren't relying on willpower and they aren't reading the financial news every day. And because they are buying consistently every month, regardless of the price, they are practicing what is called dollar cost averaging.
A powerful concept.
This is a beautiful mechanism. When the market drops, their monthly contribution automatically buys more shares because they are on sale at a discount. When the companies in the index pay out quarterly dividends, those dividends are automatically reinvested to buy even more shares. So over those 7 years, despite the volatility, the sheer mechanical consistency leads to profound overall growth. The math simply works, provided you get out of it.
And here is where the conversation gets really interesting. Once you have this machine running, once you are automatically taxing yourself, ignoring the noise to invest in low-cost index funds, and crushing your bad debt with the DOLP method, a magical shift. Your money stops just being numbers on a screen, and it actually starts buying you time. Chapter 6, Decoupling Time from Money and Lifestyle Design.
Moving beyond traditional accumulation, this chapter explores redefining wealth in terms of time, mobility, and leverage. It introduces the concept of relative income and challenges the traditional retirement deferral model.
This is the pivot point in our masterclass. We are moving beyond just the plumbing and the mechanics of hoarding cash, and we are starting to look at what that cash is actually for. We need to completely redefine our cultural definition of wealth. True wealth is not hitting a specific arbitrary number in a bank account. True wealth is achieving the freedom multiplier.
The freedom multiplier. I love this concept. It's the idea that the practical, lived value of your money is multiplied based on the amount of control you have over the 4 W's of your life. What you do, when you do it, where you do it, and with whom you do it.
Right.
If you have control over those 4 things, you are vastly wealthier than someone with a much higher net worth who has 0 control over their daily schedule.
Let's break this down with a practical comparison between absolute income and relative income. Understanding this difference changes everything about how you plan your career.
Okay, let's hear it.
Consider 2 different people. Person A is a high-powered investment banker or corporate lawyer living in a very expensive city, like London or New York. They make $500,000 a year in absolute income.
To society, that person has won the game. That sounds amazing on paper.
It does. But let's look at their life. They work 80 hours a week, including weekends. Their stress levels are off the charts. They have massive, inescapable expenses just to maintain their status. Expensive bespoke suits, exorbitant rent for an apartment near the office, commuting costs, dry cleaning, expensive takeout because they never have time to cook.
Exhausting.
They have 0 free time to see their family or pursue hobbies. Now consider person B. They are a remote consultant, a freelance graphic designer, or a specialized copywriter. They make $50,000 a year in absolute income, just a tenth of the banker. But they work only 10 to 15 hours a week, and they live in a low-cost, beautiful location abroad, maybe a beach town in Mexico or Portugal.
When you look at the relative income, meaning the actual amount of money earned per hour worked, factored against the cost of living and the freedom of mobility, person B is dramatically wealthier.
Right.
Person B can go surfing on a Tuesday morning. Person B can spend 3 hours reading a book. They have decoupled their time from their money. They control the 4 W's. The investment banker is a highly paid prisoner. The remote worker is truly
And this brings us to another massive societal assumption we need to challenge the traditional retirement deferral model. We are taught from childhood that we should work grueling schedules, defer all our gratification, save everything we can, and then at age 65, we finally get permission to stop working and enjoy our life.
It's treating retirement like an end-of-life insurance policy. You are betting that your health, your energy levels, and your desires at 65 will be exactly the same as they are at 35. It's a terrible, risky bet.
It really is.
What if your knees give out? What if you get sick? Why not take that retirement and distribute it throughout your active life? Why not take mini retirement?
A mini retirement is a deliberate choice to step away from the daily grind for 1 to 6 months at a time during your prime working years. You relocate somewhere new, you slow down, you assess the trajectory of your life, you learn a language, and you actually experience the world while you are young and healthy.
That sounds incredible.
It requires planning, yes.
Yes.
You have to optimize your cash flow, automate your bills, and build that robust emergency buffer we discussed so you aren't stressed while you're away. But the ultimate goal of wealth isn't just accumulation, it is intentional lifestyle design.
But people resist this idea aggressively, and they resist it because we're entirely addicted to the busy myth. If you ask anyone in a professional setting how they are doing, the default answer is always, oh, I'm so busy, just crazy busy, back-to-back meetings. We wear our exhaustion and our lack of free time like a badge of honor.
Because society rewards the appearance of hard work, but being constantly busy is actually a form of lazy thinking. It is indiscriminate action. If you are busy all day, every day, it means you haven't taken the time to step back and prioritize what actually moves the needle in your life or your business.
Yeah, you're just reacting.
So you just try to do everything, you answer every email, you attend every useless meeting, leading to total burnout. We have to be smart enough to differentiate between distress and eustress.
Distress is the bad stress. It's the panic of a looming deadline for a project you hate, or the low-level chronic anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck and worrying about rent. It breaks down your immune system and your spirit.
Right. But eustress is the good stress. It is the stress of growth. It's the adrenaline you feel before giving a big public speech, or the mental friction of learning a complex new skill, or pushing your body in a difficult workout.
It makes you stronger.
We don't want a life completely devoid of stress. If you sit on a beach doing nothing for a year, you will fall into boredom and apathy. The goal of financial independence is to completely eliminate distress so you can actively and voluntarily pursue eustress.
But here is the reality check. To step away from the 40-hour grind, to take mini retirements, to escape the busy trap, you can't just budget your way there by cutting out lattes. Frugality has a limit. You have to fundamentally change the actual mechanics of how you earn money. Chapter 7, Earning with Your Mind and the Power of Leverage.
This chapter delves into advanced wealth psychology, focusing on specific knowledge, accountability, and modern forms of leverage that don't require permission.
We have to face a very hard mathematical truth about them. We'll never ever get truly wealthy just by renting out your time.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. As long as your income is strictly tied to your hourly presence, whether you are making $20 an hour as a barista or $200 an hour as a corporate consultant, there is a hard ceiling on your earning potential because there are only 24 hours in a day and you have to sleep for 8 of them.
To break that ceiling, you must decouple your earnings from your physical time. You must own equity. You have to own a piece of a business, a product, or intellectual property. You have to make the transition from being a laborer to being an owner. And the mechanism that allows owners to scale their wealth exponentially while laborers stay stuck is called leverage.
Let's break down the 3 distinct forms of leverage available to us. The first and the oldest is labor leverage. This is simply having other humans work for you. It's building a traditional company and hiring employees. It works and it has created many fortunes, but it is incredibly difficult. Managing humans is messy, complex, and requires a very specific, demanding skill set.
The second form is capital leverage. This is having money work for you. This is exactly what we established with the Grow Bucket and our low-cost index fund. Every single dollar you invest becomes a tiny worker in your factory, generating more dollars, requiring absolutely no management or HR from you.
It's great.
It is a fantastic passive form of leverage, but the catch is you have to accumulate the capital first.
But the third form of leverage is the absolute game changer. It is the great equalizer in the modern economy, and it is the ultimate wealth creator products with no marginal cost of replication.
Well, let's dive deep into what that actually means, because it sounds like academic jargon. Give me a concrete example. Let's look at a local math tutor.
Perfect example. A local math tutor relies on labor leverage, their own labor. They can tutor maybe 5 kids a day after school. They charge $50 an hour. Their income is strictly tapped by the hours in the afternoon. If they get sick, they earn zero. Now, imagine that same tutor takes a weekend, sets up a camera, and records a comprehensive, highly engaging video course on mastering high school algebra.
They are creating a product with no marginal cost of replication.
Exactly. They do the work up front once, but then they put that course online. 1 million kids across the globe can download that video course, and it doesn't cost the tutor a single additional hour of work or a single extra dollar to produce the second copy or the millionth copy. The two biggest examples of this today are code and media, software, podcasts, books, YouTube videos.
It is the concept of permissionless leverage. This is profound. Back in the day, if you wanted leverage, you needed permission. You needed a bank to give you capital, or you needed a union to give you labor, or a television network to put you on air.
Right.
Today, you don't need anyone's permission to write a line of code or record a tutorial on your smartphone and put it on the internet. You just create it. It's like building an army of robots that work 24/7 in the background while you sleep, marketing your skills and generating income.
But the inevitable question is, what should you create? What should you write code about? Or what niche business should you start? This requires you to identify your specific knowledge.
Specific knowledge.
Yes, specific knowledge is the highly unique combination of your traits, your obsessions, your upbringing, and the stuff you used to do as a kid, or the obscure topics you read about effortlessly on a Sunday morning. The key is to find the things that feel like play to you, but look like hard work to everyone else.
Because if it feels like play, you will obsess over it. You will naturally dedicate thousands of hours to mastering it without feeling drained. And no one who is just doing it for a paycheck will ever be able to compete with you because they will burn out while you are just getting started. But having the specific knowledge in your head isn't enough. You have to pair it with accountability.
Accountability is terrifying for most people, but it is necessary for wealth. It means taking risks under your own name. It means putting your real name on a business or a piece of software or a piece of content and saying, I believe in this idea, I am building it, and if it fails, the failure is entirely on me.
Yeah, putting yourself out there.
Society highly rewards the people who are willing to take on that public accountability. It builds your reputation, it's a brand, and it hones.
And that ties directly into a core concept in economics, the principal-agent problem. The principal is the owner, the agent is the employee. The owner will always care more, work harder, and think longer term than the employee, because the owner captures the upside of success. The employee, the agent, just wants to get through the day, minimize their effort, and collect their guaranteed salary.
If you want to fundamentally change your financial trajectory, you have to stop thinking like an agent and start thinking like a principal. Even if you are currently employed by someone else, approach your job as if you own the company. Build systems, demonstrate supreme judgment, and take accountability for outcomes, not just hours punched. Eventually, that mindset will propel you into actual owner, either by rising to the top of that company or spinning off to start your own.
So we've covered the complete mechanics. We've automated the savings. We are taxing ourselves. We are utilizing the all-weather portfolio and index funds. We are destroying bad debt with the DLP method. And we are building permissionless leverage with our specific knowledge. We have all the tools. But it leaves us with the most profound philosophical question of what is the actual end goal of accumulating all this wealth? Chapter 8. The ultimate objective, true freedom and happiness. The final chapter synthesizes the mechanics of wealth building with the ultimate goal of money, securing personal freedom, enriching relationships, and designing a fulfilling life.
We talk so much about the compounding interest of money, how 8% over 30 years turns a few $1,000s into $1 million, but we rarely discuss how the math of compounding applies to the rest of our lives. The truth is, all the truly significant returns in life come from compound. This applies to your knowledge, your health habits, and especially.
It's about playing long-term games with long-term people. In business and in life, if you find people you deeply trust, people who possess high integrity and good judgment, you stick with them. You don't jump ship for a quick buck. Over decades, the trust compounds, the efficiency of how you work together compounds because you don't need constantly explain things, and the joy of the relationship compounds.
And that brings us to a fundamental philosophical shift in how we view freedom as we age. Early in life, when we first start making a little bit of money, we want what we call the freedom to. We want the freedom to buy the luxury car we saw on TV, the freedom to buy the expensive watch, the freedom to stay in the 5-star hotel and post a picture of it. It is very externally focused. It is about signaling to the world that we have.
But as you mature, And as your wealth actually solidifies and the systems take over, the desire naturally shifts. True wealth becomes the freedom from. It is the freedom from obligations you don't want to fulfill. It's the freedom from toxic bosses or annoying clients. It's the freedom from a blaring alarm clock at 6 a.m. The freedom from the low-level grinding hum of financial anxiety. You stop caring entirely about signaling your wealth to strangers, and you start fiercely aggressively protecting your time and your peace of mind.
Because eventually, if you reach financial independence, you realize a harsh, undeniable truth. Money solves money problems, but it absolutely does not create happiness. It removes the misery of poverty. It removes the stress of paying the heating bill, but it will not fix a broken marriage. It will not cure a disease, and it will not give your life internal meaning.
Which is exactly why we have to be so careful of the hedonic treadmill and lifestyle inflation. We talked about the mortgage trap earlier, but it applies to everything. If your core happiness is tied to constantly upgrading your lifestyle every time your income increases, you will never, ever be satisfied. You end up buying things you don't even need, with money you shouldn't spend, simply to impress people you don't even like.
The antidote to the hedonic treadmill is deliberately prioritizing. A new luxury car loses its novelty in about a month. Then it's just the thing you drive to the grocery store. But a trip to a foreign country with your family or taking a month-long mini-retirement to learn how to sail or write a novel, those experiences become part of your core identity. They provide memories and stories that actually compound in emotional value.
And ultimately, taking this long-term view forces you to think about your legacy. How do you want to be remembered when this is all over? When we talk about building businesses or leveraging our specific knowledge, it shouldn't just be a selfish, zero-sum pursuit of cash. Commerce and philanthropy are actually two sides of the exact same coin.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. Both are fundamentally about meeting the needs of others. A successful, ethical business prospers only because it provides a product or service that genuinely improves people's lives or solves a problem. Philanthropy is doing the exact same thing, allocating capital to solve problems just without the expectation of a financial return. True wealth, the kind generated by the systems we've discussed today, allows you to engage in both commerce and philanthropy with total abundance.
So when you reach the end and you look back on your life, your true value won't be measured by the peak balance of your grow bucket or the cars in your driveway. The real resume of your life is a catalog of hard things you overcame. It's the judgment you built through years of trial and error. It's the unbreakable peace of mind you secured for your family and the positive, lasting impact you had on your community. The money, the index funds, the automation, they were just the tools that gave you the time and space to do the real work of living.
Exactly. The systems, the plumbing, the automation, they are just the engine room of the ship. You set them up, you make sure they are running smoothly, so you can go up on the deck, feel the wind in your hair, and actually sail the ship wherever you want to go.
Okay, let's unpack everything we've covered in this masterclass into a final, actionable summary. Start by acting right now, today. Automate your savings. Build the plumbing. Set up that system so the money vanishes into a high-yield emergency fund and your investment accounts before you ever see it. Tax yourself. Respect the math of low-cost index funds and the all-weather portfolio, and ignore the daily noise of the market. Attack your bad debt relentlessly using the DOLP method. Be incredibly wary of lifestyle creep and the mortgage trap. Stop believing you can get wealthy just by renting out your time and start figuring out how to build permissionless leverage using your unique, specific knowledge.
And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over today as you go about your routine. Imagine for a moment that you were given all the money you would ever need today. If your bank account was entirely full and you never had to work for a paycheck again, what is the very first thing you would do with your time tomorrow morning? Figure out what that is, find that purpose, and then let that vision dictate the financial systems you start building right now.
It has been an absolute pleasure walking through this deep dive with you today. Thank you for giving us your time, your attention, and your willingness to rethink your money. We wish you the absolute best on your journey to true financial freedom.
Take care, everyone, and keep building.